right. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
I'm really glad that you could all join us. I know some of you, my name is Brittany McLeod. I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Undergraduate Research and Major Awards. And we are here to talk about the IRB process. A lot of people maybe feel like as an undergraduate, we don't have to start this process. Maybe it's already been done for us. But that's usually not the case unless your professor has explicitly said, I'm adding you to my existing IRB that's already been approved. And so some of you are submitting your own IRB proposals for the very first time. And so this will be a wonderful opportunity for you to learn about that process, why it exists to protect people, and ask questions. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Nettie Martinez. She is a research compliance specialist in the UH IRB office, and she specifically works with IRB Review Committee number 3, which is for student-led projects. So go ahead and take over.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and start with the presentation. She's already introduced me. I work with the IRB that reviews student-led protocols. Let me hold on just one second. Don't see my screen. Let's see. Sorry, technical difficulties here. Let's see if I can do this now. There we go. Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
The first slide. Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward with the next slide over. And just to tell you about who we are, the IRB is responsible for safeguarding the rights and the welfare of all persons participating in the research projects, whether funded or not funded. This is a human subjects research program where the IRB members and us at the office work together to protect the welfare and the rights of human subjects. We have 3 IRBs. IRB 1 and 2 review faculty protocols, and IRB 3 reviews student-led research. Human subjects training is required by the IRB to conduct human subjects training is required to conduct human subjects research. And if anybody hasn't done this already, you may find the cityprogram.org link later on in other slides up ahead. But this is a protection for human subjects and research developed as a reaction to the long history of abuses. You can find the history in that city program in the human subjects training. And just a little bit of this history is the Nazi war crimes such as the sterilization experiments and the typhus vaccine experiments, the hyperthemia studies led to the Nuremberg Code and established voluntary consent. A paper published by Henry Beecher in 1966 on 22 unethical published studies in the US led to the regulations regarding children in research and the NIH and the FDA regulations. There was a Tuskegee syphilis experiment, I don't know if anyone has heard about that, that in itself led to the creation of the Bellman Report and IRB. The Bellman Report defined 3 ethical principles that every IRB is required to consider when reviewing proposed and continuing research. Respects for persons. People are autonomous beings and can make decisions for themselves. Beneficence. Make sure that the risks do not outweigh the benefits to the subjects, to the participants. And justice, assuring that subject selection is equitable. The research is designed to benefit the population that is participating in the study. So many of you might ask yourselves if your research or the work you're working on requires IRB review. If your answer is yes to both of these questions, am I conducting research? Are human subjects involved? More than likely you will need IRB review. You're always welcome to contact the office to talk over the type of research you are planning to conduct, and we'll be able to assist you there. What is research? Research is defined as a systematic investigation including research development, testing, and evaluation, designed to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge. Generalizable knowledge has not been explicitly defined in federal regulations, but can be applied. It is knowledge that is going to be shared in the field. What is human subjects? Human subjects is a very wordy definition. Human subjects is a living individual about whom an investigator, whether professional or student, conducting research obtains information or biospecimens through intervention or interaction with the individual or uses, studies or analyzes the information or biospecimen, or obtains, uses, studies, and analyzes or generates identifiable private information or identifiable biospecimens. I don't know if anybody has done research in the past or not, or have a notion of what it is, but we can go ahead and test our knowledge on this. I have a couple of examples that we can review. And one of them being, a researcher wants to observe online chat room behaviors in various environments. She periodically posts topics to the chat room to elicit the chat room responses. So this, we will assume that is research, but is it human subjects? Does anybody have any idea? Anybody want to interact? Sorry about that. Okay, well, yes, this is considered research, and it is interaction with people, even though it's not face-to-face, even though it's online in chat rooms, it involves human subjects. Sorry. The other example is an investigator received survey data on the use of opiate pain medications from an outside source. The data were obtained from a previous and unrelated research study, not current research. The investigator cannot identify the survey participants. This does not require IRB. The investigator cannot identify and has no link to the identity of the participants. So this in itself is not human subjects research. Student research. A student as a PI, all the protocols with a student PI must identify a faculty sponsor. In addition to that, the dean and the chair for the department must review and sign off on the protocols. And all protocols with faculty sponsor are reviewed by IRB 3. Training requirement. This is an important thing we need to keep in mind when doing research. This is probably the most common thing that holds the study from being approved. The UH IRB requires that all individuals listed on the IRB protocol complete the human subjects training. That's including the faculty sponsor and all external team members. A refresher course is done required every 3 years. The protocol cannot receive final approval until the requirements have been completed. Here is the website where you would register yourself if you haven't done so already. You affiliate yourself with the University of Houston, and it's a free course. I just had a question. This presentation includes information on research doing in schools. I don't know if any of you will be working with the school system or not, but it also includes information on vulnerable populations. Something to think about when you are working in the school system or even out in the communities. If you plan to obtain information from student education records as part of your research, be aware that the Federal Rights and Private Act set forth consent requirements for accessing information on these records. In most cases, the parent and the student must provide signed and dated written consent for disclosure of personally identifiable records. When working with a school, here are some tips and tricks. You need to consult with each institutional office, understand the required process for permission and assent. Make sure that it's clearly described in both applications, letter of permission from the schools, and the IRB submission. UH can often be flexible regarding the letters of cooperation. Like when working with school districts or other institutions even, they require that you do have IRB first before they provide a letter of cooperation. And that letter of cooperation can be submitted via modification once your protocol has been approved. Initial IRB and approval. We follow some criteria for approval. When you submit your protocol, the IRB uses these criteria, making sure human subjects are being protected. Some of them being the risks, making sure that the risks are minimized, that the risk and benefit ratio are reasonable, equitable selection of participants, consent is obtained as needed, adequate provisions for monitoring the data, privacy and confidentiality is protected, and vulnerable populations are protected. Considerations for electronic consent might also be one of the things that you will do. How to minimize risk. One of the main things the IRB considers when reviewing your research are the risks for participants and how you are minimizing the risks, especially vulnerable populations such as children, or other additional protections are required. If, I don't know if any of you may be teachers or not, or in that field, but when teachers are involved, one of the ways of minimizing risks is that the teacher is not the one that collects consent, because, you know, him being your teacher, then you are kind of like feel forced, not knowing your rights, to do to consent to that, to participate in that research. Informed consent. When performing the process of informed consent, we need to remember it is an educational process between the investigator and the subject. It is not just handing a piece of paper to the participant without an explanation. It is a document subject sign, making sure that they understand the study, making sure that it is an ongoing consent process where you periodically will remind them of the procedures and making sure that you make yourself available for any concerns. We have this as well as the application templates in our website. During the consent process, there is something called the Waiver of Documentation of Informed Consent, which includes all the elements of the consent referred to as a cover letter, where the participants consent by agreeing to participate and is used on studies that involve surveys or questionnaires. A waiver of informed consent means waiving consent entirely used for minimal risk studies or procedures such as retrospective analysis or data already collected. Data retention. The federal regulations require that the research data be maintained for a minimum of 3 years after the completion of the study, meaning after you have already completed the data analysis. The protocol must state the name of the UH individual for the maintenance of the data and the physical location on UH property or either UH server. Whether you leave the university or either you stay, the university must keep a copy of your research. Attachments. So the submission includes all of these items: the protocol, the IRB 503, any advertisements, recruitment scripts, any social media posts or letter of cooperations of support from other institutions, informed consent, cover letter, parental permission and assent, interview questions, surveys, tools, and translated documents. When you are translating information, there's also another form that is required, and that is the translation assurance form. And that also should be an attachment. Although we require that, not require, but it's up to you actually, but it would be just feasible to submit your English version. And when you have approval for that, submit your translated one. That way you are only making changes on one document if clarifications are required for that study. It takes time when doing your research. When you submit your protocol, turnaround times are 7 to 10 business days. And keep in mind that there are the options of submitting, not the options, the requirement of getting ancillary reviews from your faculty sponsor and your departmental chair and dean. In addition to that, the IRB performs exempt and expedited reviews. Please note that the terms exempt and expedited may be a little bit deceiving. The technology used in the regulations mean research that does not have to be reviewed by a fully convened committee. These categories are for low or no risk studies. Make sure you plan ahead. Include the time involved for obtaining any letters of support, whether working with the schools or school districts or any other institution that may be assisting you with your research. Think through all the details of your research with IRB protocol in mind. It's a little bit lengthy, but it triggers your mind as to what it is that you want to do with your research. Discuss with your advisor and your faculty sponsor the details of your study, and plan on time. Again, mentioning it again, that ancillary reviews are required. And ancillary reviews are required on new studies and modifications, not on continuing reviews. Should your study take a full convened review, you will have to submit a continuing review, which is done annually. So once your study has gone through the review and your study is now approved, now what then? The study is approved. You may download all your approval letter, all your approved documents. They all have an approval stamp. Make sure that you monitor the recruitment and enrollment numbers. Perform all aspects of the study as it is approved. Modifications may be submitted for anything like personnel, new or revised documents, or site letters, meaning to say that you've obtained your IRB approval. Now you requested approval from the other institution you're working with. You may submit those via modification or any other protocol changes, making sure that ancillary reviews are required. Also, unanticipated problems or adverse events may happen, and these are submitted through ICON via a reportable new information, also known as RNI. Oftentimes, it is for over-enrollment, so that's why we want you to ensure that you are watching your numbers and your recruitment, to make sure that you don't go over your numbers, because that is also considered non-compliance. Key submission points. So these are key submission points to remember and must be performed in a chronological order before submitting. We recommend that you do the HRP 503 protocol and the consents first using the applicable templates that are on our website. I have included investigator tools link and a training videos link for ICON. And also, once you have gone through those, if you still have questions, you are all more than welcome to contact our office. After you have completed these two items, then you complete the smart form in ICON, including the upload of all the attachments. Assign the ancillary reviewers. Once you assign the ancillary reviewers, you wait for at least one of the departmental and your faculty sponsor, and then click submit. Get help with your submission. We recommend that you talk to me or either someone else in the office, in the IRB office. It is always good to discuss what you're planning to do and then move forward with it when you have a clear understanding of what it is that you want to do. We have open office hours for students Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to 11:30. We are currently working remotely, so you are welcome to call me or send me a Zoom meeting. If I have anything scheduled during those times, I'll work with you. We'll just go ahead and get together on whatever it is, whenever it is you want to get together. and you're able to, and I'll make myself available at any time, as long as there's nothing else scheduled during the same time. I can now move forward with the icon process. Here we have a link where I can go to our stage. I'll show you to create a protocol and what the icon smart form looks like. Can you see this, the screen where icon? Can you see my icon screen? Can anyone find? Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So when you log in with your KuberNet ID and password to icon, this is what it's going to look like, except you will not have any listings here. Here's the links that or tabs that we use. I mostly use these two. These others, someone else is in charge of. To create your protocol, you click on the IRB, and under the IRB here, it says Create New Study. You click on the Create New Study, and each section must be filled out before you, and the protocol must be uploaded, which is the reason why we ask you that you complete that first. Even if you have a draft, you can always go into it and edit it or update it, and then click continue. But right now I'm going to go ahead and show you one that I'm currently working on. So see which one is the one I wanted to use. So when you create your protocol, you're here. You just make sure that your name as a principal investigator appears, that it's accurate, that it is your name. It hasn't happened, but just in case. The title of the study goes here. You can come up with a short title. The number 3 requires a brief description of your study. Include the methodology being used and how you're going to, what your tools and whatever it is that you're doing, how is it going to answer the research question? Just provide a little bit of information on that. You would upload your protocol here by clicking add. You choose, you browse, and then you click OK. You don't have to name it or give it a version number or anything. Then click continue. Here's the funding sources. Most of the student-led protocols are not funded, but if you happen to have funding, you can go here. If it is not funded, people do think of the word not funded and not the word unfunded. Unfortunately, the system was not set up to find an option for not funded. So you would browse and type in unfunded. Believe it or not, this is one of the areas where most people have trouble. And this is the one you choose as the only one unfunded. And then you click OK. You browse down and you click OK. You don't have to worry about the rest of the information. The study team members section, this here, it may seem like you should include yourself on number one. You don't have to include yourself on number one because you're already listed as a study PI on the basic information section. Here you will add your faculty sponsor and anybody else that may be assisting you with your research. Let's say you have a research assistant. Also under section 2, there's this option of clicking to download the external team member template. If you're working with an institution that it's outside the UH community, then you will go ahead and include information here. Let's say you work with UTMB, then you will put their information here. If you have another IRB reviewing, you put their information here. You will download your document, you will update it, and then upload it. The study scope, number one, would be one of the items that you would, well, all of them are important, but one of the most used on yes, whether you're overseeing a research at another institution. But what I think that basic protocols at the UH, pretty much all the answers to these are no. Then we have the local site document section. This is where you would upload the consent documents. If you're working with health information, you may also upload the HIPAA authorization form here, which is also found here. Here, right below, we have all the templates for the consents. Here is the recruitment material. Here you'll upload any flyers or any email scripts, any verbal scripts, phone scripts, that type of thing. And under question 3, you will add all your tools. Here's a list of the items that might be uploaded here, which are your letters of cooperation, your interview questionnaires, your survey questionnaires, any safety information, any type of study tools. If you are translating, the translation assurance document will be uploaded here. This is the final page. The final page just tells you not to forget to do the ancillary review. It gives you a little bit of guidance on what the next step is. This is the face of your study. You will see that it's under pre-submission. That means that it's still in your queue. It hasn't gone anywhere. Clicking finish doesn't mean that it's submitted to us. There's a submit button right below here under the next steps column. If you happen to have not finished with your study, you want to go back and edit it, you can always click here. You can also navigate through these if you'd like. This brings out a printer version. And this one is usually used by us. When you submit a modification, we can view the differences on the two submissions. Your name will appear here. Your college or department will appear here. The workflow kind of tells you where the study is. So if you haven't submitted, your study will be, the flow chart will have this one highlighted. Once you submit, once you have collected the ancillary reviews and click submit, the pre-review will be highlighted. That will come to me once have 7 to 10 business days to take a look at your protocol. And if there are any clarifications, I will send it back to you. If I send it back to you, then the clarifications request will be highlighted and so on and so forth. So this is where you would manage your ancillary reviews. you would click here to add your faculty sponsor as the right to write off on your, or to accept your protocol. This is, this link is not linked to an active link, so it's not an active link. So we can add them, you browse, let's add, and you will choose whoever it is that you will, that your faculty sponsor is, and click OK. And number 2, you will choose the type, the review type that David McLeod will do. Let's say this is your faculty sponsor, so you choose faculty sponsor. And for all of the people that you enter here, a response is required. So indicate yes. We're going to add another, and we're going to add our department chair. The same here, you would choose, you would browse and choose whoever it is that you're looking for. I'm sorry, I already chose it. And then here you would choose department. And you would indicate yes. You would do the same thing for the dean. If there are 2 deans in your department, everybody needs to be added so that they have access to what types of research are in their department. So you would click OK to finish this process. And then it goes back to the phase of a study. So here you will see that you've managed, you've added them. You will wait for, when you do this, the system automatically sends them an email and lets them know that this is a protocol that they need to submit ancillary review on. So they would go in there, they review your study, and then they click accept. I think what they click is something called update. And when they do, you will see something like this here. Let me see if, I don't know if I have one study, but it has a green check mark. To make sure that they did accept, you can always go to the reviews tab. And you can see here whether they accepted or not. Yes, it was required, but has it been accepted? And if it's been accepted, it would say yes. And here, just to tell you a little bit more about ICON, once all of that is done, before I go further, you click submit. And I've already talked about that process. But if you would like to look at other documentation, we have the library section where you can find SOPs, and we have worksheets and checklists. But to find your ancillary reviewers, you can go to the general and go to the first one, that's the designated. Let me see if I have one. I don't think I have one open, but that's where you would click, and it's divided by departments. So you can find your chair and dean there. Does anybody have any questions about ICON? Okay, let's see.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
So some of the students here are funded by programs like the Provost Undergraduate Research Scholarship or Action Research in Communities. And so when they go to select their funding source, what would they select if it's a program through an office like ours?
If you know that your study is funded, you should have documentation on it. And you should know who the funding belongs to, which program. you would enter it on there. It would have, there's a number of items listed there. If by chance it's not on there, you can enter the information on your own and then upload. It gives you an option to upload information concerning the funding.
Okay,
Does
so
that answer your question?
for all of you that are in these kinds of funded programs, I guess you could upload or attach your offer to participate in ARC or PERS or whatever it may be whenever you create that item.
Okay. Okay, so we went through that icon. If you have any questions or would like to contact Danielle Griffin, she is the Associate Director for the IRB. You are welcome to do so. As I said, I am here to assist you in any questions you may have. I would appreciate if you would call me and make an appointment to discuss your study and to find out, what all documentation you need to submit or how it is that you need to fill it out. I'll be happy to assist. If there are any other questions, I can assist with that.
So I want to pose a common question that we get in our office. A lot of times when people see the word exempt on the website, they read that and they think, okay, that means I'm exempt. I don't have to request IRB approval. Can you explain to everyone what exempt means for IRB?
So there are exempt categories under the regulations, and it is for studies that include studies like surveys, anonymous surveys, where you would do it through Qualtrics or Sona or anything like that. Exempt categories also cover identifiable studies that are very low risk, very minimum, such as interviews, one interview, not follow-up interviews or anything else added to that study, just the interview, or either just, it's basically that. It's basically also what's it called? Just analyzing data. So let's say you are getting data to analyze on non-identifiable, but somehow you're able to link to the identifiers. That is reviewed also under exempt.
Yeah, so basically, if you're working with human subjects, you are not exempt from getting IRB review. But if your study is extremely low risk in terms of risk for participants, then you are exempt from the full IRB review committee, and that's the committee that just meets once a month. If you fall under an exempt category, they review those on an ongoing basis. So you're not exempt from IRB review altogether. You're just exempt from that full IRB review that is for higher risk studies.
Right. So if you contact me, I'm also able to send you links to our website. You can find the categories there, but it is not up to you to decide whether it's an exempt or an expedited review. Or if you're doing a lot of intervention, of course, it's going to go to a full convent committee meeting. So, but just so that you can get acquainted to familiar with what those categories are, you're always welcome to go into the website and look at the different categories for exempt and expedited.
Yeah, and earlier here, I sent you all the link in the chat for information about city training. If you haven't already done that and you are participating in the PERS program this fall or the ARC program for this year, please go ahead and do that training. I will say it takes some time to get through that training. And at some points you will feel like, okay, this part doesn't apply to me. Do I really have to do it? You do. I went through the training a few years ago. I just renewed it actually this spring. And it's not fun by any means, but it is informative. It does help you understand the process and why you are doing this. You learn about why these protections are in place. They protect, obviously, the participants, but this also protects you, your faculty mentors, and the University of Houston. You know, this really does look out for everyone involved. And so to put a little bit of time on your calendar, you know, over the weekend, and go through the city training. When you're done, you do have an option to download the certificate. I recommend saving that in a safe place, emailing it to yourself. If you're in ARC, I request that you send me your certificate of completion so that I have that on record too. We just want to make sure that you have done your due diligence and done everything asked as you're moving through the IRB process. Okay, does anyone have any questions?
I actually had one question.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation. But in regards to like IRB, if we're being added to a faculty member's IRB, like basically their IRB that they already have, do we still need to go through this process with ICON, or is there something different we would have to do?
They can add you on their study. They can, if you want to go under that faculty sponsor and go through their IRB process, is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
They can always add you as a study team member under question 1 if you remember an ICON. And yes, you are required to have that city training.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so if you're just joining an existing IRB, then short answer is no, you don't need to go through this whole process, but you will have to do that city. I know several of you in ARC are joining onto existing IRBs, so just make sure that you have all of the documentation that you need on record and get some kind of confirmation that you've been added to that IRB and that it's been confirmed and approved.
Okay.
Any other questions? No other questions? Then thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present to you all. I'm very grateful. It gives me also the experience to do this since I've been in this department for 1 year. So I appreciate you all very much.
Thank you so much. The IRB process can be kind of overwhelming and there's so much to it. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your afternoon to come and walk us through all of it and why it's so important to understand it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. You all have a great evening.